Hello, my name is Brianna Reed, and this presentation is focused on childhood obesity, specifically focusing on Arizona schools located in Tempe. Every year, obesity rates are increasing. Childhood obesity rates in Tempe, Arizona are higher than the national average. Childhood obesity is one of the biggest threats to public health, as 1 out of 3 children are obese or overweight. In the United States, obesity rates increased from 13.9% between the years of 1999 and the year of 2000, all the way up to 18.5% between the years of 2015 and 2016. In 2017, 20.6% of youth between ages of 13 to 19 were obese. And in Arizona, the rates were even higher, totaling 26.9% of the youth. So this graph basically shows you the statistics that I mentioned in the previous slide. This graph is from stateofobesity.org, and it shows the trends of obesity for the last 17 years. So overall, there was about a 9% increase in adult obesity and about a 5% increase in childhood obesity from the years of 1999 to 2016. That's about a 1% increase every year for children. And according to childstrend.org, there were about 74 million children total under the age of 18 in the year of 2016 in the United States. So let's just take 1% of that population in 2016. That's about 740,000 children. That means if we, increase in childhood obesity by 1% for the year of 2017, that means 740,000 more children will be in the category of being overweight or obese. And that's just if it stays at that 1% increase. But we'll talk a little bit more about why adding over a half a million children to the statistic is not good in the next slide. So there are negative effects to childhood obesity, aside from self-image issues, which is a completely another topic that we're not going to address in this presentation. It's really important to take control of childhood obesity, as it can cause long-term health problems. Some of these health problems include diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart issues like heart disease. Children who are obese often have a shorter life expectancy than their parents. In addition to shorter life expectancy, children who are obese typically become obese adults, which then becomes expensive for taxpayers because of long-term health problems that require constant medical attention. One of the main causes of obesity is the intake of high caloric foods and beverages. And what really kind of hits home, or should I say opens up my eyes when it comes to high caloric beverages is I love to go to Starbucks every day. I'm guilty of loving caramel macchiatos, and I know if I start my day with a grande caramel macchiato, I'm already consuming 250 calories, 7 grams of fat, and 35 carbs. So it's the same with other sugary beverages that kids might consume. Let's take, for example, apple juice. Apple juice is served at school breakfast, and if a kid takes an apple juice to drink, they're starting their day off with 28 carbs, 113 calories, and 24 grams of sugar, just in one drink. And what's really alarming is that children consume 35% of their daily food and beverage intake at school. That's a pretty good amount, and only 6% of Arizona schools participate in the National School Lunch Program that follows the School Initiative for Healthy Children. So a little bit of background on the program School Initiative for Healthy Children. It provides standards that follow the USDA recommendations for target nutrient, and they also for target nutrients, and they limit fat and sodium intake for children. The food programs that are available within the Arizona schools, specifically Tempe schools, exceed the USDA calorie and fat recommendations, and they fall short of the recommended fiber, fruit, and vegetable intake. According to the New England Journal of Medicine, children who have limited healthy options will eat fewer healthy foods. And that totally makes sense. If healthy options aren't there for you, you have less of a chance to eat healthy. Another, astounding finding is that a third of the vegetables available to children in schools are in the form of potatoes. And obviously we know potatoes are not the healthiest vegetable to consume, especially if that's the only vegetable that you're getting. School meals are high in fat. They consist of low quality, cheap meats and cheese, and they lack real fruits and vegetables, which is a concern considering 35% of their food intake is done at school. So what is being done now? There are a few things being done / that were done in the past to combat childhood obesity. In 2004, nutrition guidelines ordered schools to provide meals that follow the guidelines provided by the USDA. However, there were no major changes to school meals until the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act was put in place in 2010. As a result of the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act, school meals became less calorie dense and without reduced participation in the meal programs, which is, that's totally great. There wasn't a drop in participation in the amount of schools that, partook in the school lunch. Therefore, the kids benefited from a lower calorie meal at school. However, in 2017, the USDA went backwards and basically revoked the low-calorie meals for school. This is kind of unfortunate because it's a topic worth addressing, and now there's really nothing being done about school meal programs to address obesity. Is Tempe doing any better? Well, as far as Tempe schools go, they are trying to remove soy, trans fat, high fructose corn syrup, and artificial colors from their school meals. They are also combating this issue with implementing a garden to cafeteria program in the elementary schools. 63.7% of Tempe elementary schools already have salad bars, but the goal is really to have 100% of all Tempe schools to have salad bars. That means elementary, middle school, high school. That way this gives the children healthier options that have less calories, fat, and sodium. But I really do feel that Tempe is really stepping up their game and trying to combat childhood obesity. Recommendations for Tempe. So, elementary schools in Tempe, as stated before, implemented the Garden to Cafeteria program. This program essentially gets kids out and helping with the school garden. The school produces produce that is then given to the cafeteria for the salad bars. Since the elementary schools are improving the diets of young children, the main focus and issue for Tempe is that Tempe high schools fall short when it comes to healthy food options. To minimize obesity, Tempe high schools should really follow suit and adopt the Garden to Cafeteria program, as well as other elementary schools. Not every elementary school partakes in the Garden program, but really the overall idea is that they incorporate more salad bars that promote healthy options. And we'll talk a little bit more about the school garden program and how it helps combat childhood obesity later in this presentation. So I'm sure the big question is, how do we get these gardens implemented into the schools? So number one way is to get volunteers, especially parent volunteers. We need people to supervise the gardening activities and provide students with education about how food is grown and emphasize the importance of eating fruits and vegetables. After really getting a game plan on how the garden will be ran and who will help, the next step is obviously funding. One major way to get the funding is to apply for district grants. This will take either parent or teacher participation to write the grant, or even donations from parents or the community. There's also the factor of, will the kids even eat the produce from the garden? To get student involvement, it would be great to survey the students on what their produce preference is. So that way the garden isn't producing food that will not get eaten. Defeats the purpose. Ideally, the end goal would be to produce fruits and vegetables that will be used in the salad bar. So implementing the said salad bars into Tempe schools. Well, how do we do that? Well, there's an organization called the Salad Bars to Schools, and schools can apply for grants through them. The grant will provide funding and will help set up salad bars in Tempe schools. This organization does service schools all over the United States, but since this presentation is focusing on Tempe schools, we'll just leave it at that. Establishing salad bars into the Tempe schools, in addition to promoting garden to cafeteria program, will truly give students healthier options. The garden program allows for student involvement in what goes into the salad bars. And another idea is that what doesn't make it to the salad bar, or if there's leftovers to the salad bar, could be used to make compost, which then can go back to the garden. It's a good cycle. And what would really be great is if Tempe high schools really followed the examples of the elementary schools in Tempe, because they are really the ones that are definitely falling behind when it comes to combating childhood obesity. Why would this work? Well, the schools that participated in the Garden to Cafeteria program so far have shown that students are more educated on healthy food choices. In addition to being involved in the gardening process, and in return the children's vegetable intake doubles. The intake goes from 1.2 to 2.6 servings every day. And in the beginning of this presentation, I mentioned that 35% of their daily food and beverage intake happens at school. So to double the vegetable intake for students is huge. And when children participate in the growing and harvesting of healthy foods, this educates the student about where their food comes from. And students who are able to play a role in growing and harvesting produce have a higher chance of making healthier food choices now and as adults. Starts those good habits at a young age. When schools provide salad bars, children have daily access to fresh fruits and vegetables. Salad bars at schools increase the overall variety in the diets of children. And they're also beneficial for lowering fat, calorie, and cholesterol intake for students who eat school lunches. And just a little side story from my own personal experience with the school garden program. I was a volunteer at the Broadmoor Elementary School garden in Tempe. I taught lessons about growing produce in their school garden. I just want to take a moment to say that I think school gardens really do work. The children that I taught were so engaged in the lessons. They were so excited to be outside and to learn. And I can't directly speak for how their diet improved, as I didn't do any research with that. I mean, obviously now I wish I would have, but being at the Broadmoor garden kind of just solidifies the fact that people are willing to volunteer and donate money for school gardens. I mean, they're a perfect example of that. They had all of their materials donated, and everybody who taught were volunteering. And that's really what, the donations and the volunteer is really what will make or break a garden to cafeteria program. So I just wanted to share my experience with that. So finally, to conclude all of this information, childhood obesity is a serious epidemic that does require attention. Students are in school for a large portion of their day, and that is a perfect opportunity for school districts in general, but for this presentation's purpose, particularly Tempe high school districts, to effortlessly expose students to new foods and participate in nutrition education. And when I say effortlessly, I mean they already have the attention of the students just by the students attending school every day. Education leaders should be urged to partake in school salad bar programs, as well as school gardening endeavors. There is a desperate need for schools nationwide to take measure in addressing the early life exposure to improve the nutrition status and growth of our students. Implementing school salad bars and gardening programs are leaps towards healthier children in Tempe, Arizona. And just a couple questions to think about. So based on your own experience with eating school food, if you went to a public school or a private school that offered food, do you think as a child, if you had salad bars available, if you didn't, hypothetically, would you make healthier options? Why or why not? Another question to think about, have you ever witnessed a school garden program? And if so, I'd like you to talk about your experience and give feedback, what worked and what didn't work. And do you think it is the school's responsibility to provide healthy food options in nutrition education? Why or why not?